Hello, hi everybody, whoever's watching. Um, I thought I'd get on here and make a more proper looking video without a shaky camera that might give people nausea from the shakiness. I know people like my wife have a hard time watching videos if it's even a movie if it's really unstable and shaky. So with the help of my son and shopping at Goodwill, we have a camera and whatnot. So hopefully things are a little bit more stable here on out. So bear with me, but thank you for watching if you are. um, yeah, so my Mr. Die Time channel, hopefully we'll be able to switch over to an organization I'm trying to get started with a community first and then hopefully a physical space in the future called the New Earth Healing Bar, just which would be a place for people to bring their ideas together and talk about things with no judgment and just kind of an open mind about products they enjoy that are alternatives to certain other things in their lives, and just ideas in general about how we can help people, how we can communicate with people better, how we can treat ourselves better. Basically a place or a community where people don't have to worry about what they want to talk about, regardless of what it is. And obviously, we're not going to let anyone, try and hurt anyone else or try and offend anyone else, or take the system for granted. Well, yeah. But first off, I'd just like to share some information about me and I guess on my spiritual journey. Which when it started, I didn't even realize what was happening. Through an awakening is what I had. I thought I just had bad stuff happen, but as we all kind of find out, the bad stuff happens for a reason. And that's why we kind of have to embrace it a little bit and kind of acknowledge it and almost be grateful for the bad things in our life because they kind of accelerate and help identify and explain and more identify things we need to work on in ourselves or else around us. So, that being said, I was, happy with my regular life as everything going on about not really thinking about God or a soul or any of this stuff. And it all kind of started recently, but after learning things, just like many of you probably have, you realize that it actually started long ago, but you just didn't know that it did until recently. Without the knowledge of knowing what was happening, you just thought you were living about your life and weird things were happening. So I guess for the story on how mine started, it didn't in my mind, it didn't start happening, my spiritual awakening, until August when my wife got thrown off a horse. I thought it was just, one of the nights she was in the emergency room, I got to actually look into things and watch some TV that I knew she wouldn't have wanted because it was a little bit too much on the topic side where she tried to scare away from, or she tried to stay away from because of her past as growing up. She was kind of connected to that other world, to other realities, to the spirit side, to where she, went to a therapist to help her kind of shut it down because it was interfering with our lives and me being negative about it because I didn't know what was going on. So I was kind of shutting her down and saying, she'd have an incident with the kids where a lot of stuff would happen at the house. So I'd just say, I'd think that she left the house with the kids so she didn't have to be around me. Well, it was actually the things at the house that she didn't want to be alone for. So it was an unhealthy way for me to look at it in the past, which shut her down to it, or which created a negativity between us, but also she ended up having to shut down to it instead of finding the understanding about what was going on. So anyway, years later, as she's in the emergency room, a couple nights after she got thrown off a horse and had a bunch of broken stuff, is where I was watching this show and I'm like, oh my goodness, this CEO, who is extremely psychic, has really developed psychic abilities. He was like the mirror of my wife and I's experience, how he had a hard marriage and he had to shut it all down, but he just couldn't. At a certain point, he was thrown into it. And I kind of related that to, you know, our lives quite a bit. So, and then I looked into some stuff and I'm like, oh my God, oh my goodness, this is real. I got to start paying attention to this. And then hours later, it was like really late at night, and I ended up finding a star seed activation um, video, and I've never experienced anything like it in my life. It was like you hand out your, at the end of it, you hand out your, reach out your hands, and you're given the gift, and it is just a big warm ball of light that hits you in the face and covers your body, and you're in it, and you feel it, and you just cry and cry. And it was like the most amazing, beautiful thing I've ever had in my life. And there were just so many answers, questions were answered. It was like a download of all this information that explained like so many things that happened in my life that all kind of made sense and lined up, and they all just, and you realize why this happened for this, and everything kind of makes sense in your own personal life. And then it was the next day, after this, I just felt this instant like join of family, that I felt like this coming together of oneness. Like, and then all of a sudden it's like I felt other people in my family. It's like, so I had to ask my kids the next day when we were in the car driving, because we had to go to the county fair, because coincidentally, yes, my wife is in the hospital, but my kids, she still wanted us and the kids to go experience the county fair because it's just our magical spot, what we love. And on the way there, I asked my daughters and my son, like, have you ever felt that you have another sibling? So as my daughters say, no, kind of goofy, as they are. And my son's like, well, it's kind of strange you ask me that, because last night I had a dream, and in his dream, he says, it was like, it wasn't really a dream, but I just met a younger version of myself, and I couldn't really see him good because there was a sun behind him, but I could see him, and it just looked like a younger version of me. And it just like hit me so hard. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like, that's the, when my daughters were in my wife's womb, there was a point where there was blood, and then we went to the doctor, and that's when they did ultrasounds and actually found out we were having twins. But also, my wife was convinced she lost a child as well. That's why the bleeding, she thought the bleeding was related to that. And and also, my wife's always kind of felt like we had another boy as well. So upon asking my other family members, what if they had extreme dreams that night, my father did. He said it was like I couldn't sleep all night. It was like a party. All of a sudden, it was like my room's full of people, and they're all screaming and jumping up and down, happy, and I couldn't sleep. It was so loud. I'm like, okay, that's strange. My sister, she had dreams about grandma coming to her and talking about the cat getting in the trash all the time, and my uncle Mark, we'll get to that another time. He was 7 foot tall, male, deepest voice ever, and he was here for the rising and falling of the AIDS pandemic on this planet. So I recently learned what that's about. Him being an elevated soul that came down for that experience to help us all understand and accept more, be more accepting. So anyway, after asking my father about his night, my mother, she's still a little closed off. My wife kind of keeps having dreams that he comes to her in the night, and sometimes like during the day. And also, it kind of reminded me of the time where she was younger, and she said there was an experience she was having where she was kind of in and out of the dream state, like just about to go to bed, or I believe waking. And she remembers her arm over the side of the bed, thinking she was petting the hair of one of her dogs as a child. And then she realizes she heard the dog was outside. There was no dog. And she realized she was rubbing the head of a young boy. And then all of a sudden it freaked her out, and she was scared because everything was kind of scary to her as a child. And then me, I just kind of took that as, I think that was our son going back in time, because either he knew you needed comforting, or else he needed comforting. But I just felt that was him going to see her at some time. But I could be wrong about that. It's just a kind of guess. But I do feel that there is after learning about some things from the Gaia show, Galactic Messenger, I've learned that there is help that we're hopefully going to receive, that is going to be well received because we'd see it as family, because they possibly are. So I hope I'm not getting too deep on this first initial video, but this is just kind of my awakening experience I'm trying to kind of express about how much was slapped at me in the first 48 hours of becoming aware of what was going on in my life. And then, yeah, to go from there and learn all this, it like really rewinds your life and kind of helps everything make sense. All the choices you've made kind of not feel right, but at least you know you're on one of the branches of your tree of life that's above ground. Not just, so you've made the choices to where you're still positive and you're above ground on your tree of life decisions, but you're, maybe not as branched out as you want to be, like out by a flower or a leaf or something with direct light. But I guess I'll move to the next thing where after that part of the awakening, my wife was kind of healed, and I was trying to calm myself down to aid in her recovery, because that's what I was supposed to be doing as a husband and partner. But it was still so overwhelming with all this new feelings and emotions that I was going through that I didn't even realize what was happening when it was going on. I didn't know I was having a spiritual awakening when it happened. And that's why I guess it was the void part I was stuck in for a while, where it's just I feel the immense love that I was so excited about. All I wanted to do was scream at everyone. It's like, did you know this? Did you know this? Did you know this? Did you know this? And I was like kind of overwhelming for people, because I was just like, if I can tell them this, then they'll be happy, then they'll be cured, then they'll be healed and something. And I just had to calm myself, calm my tongue, stay relatable. And it was really hard for me to do that, because it just had this like urge to like go out and tell everyone everything and scream from the rooftops, like thinking I was going to help everyone. But that's where the challenge started to come in, where it's like you really do have to learn on the work inside yourself to kind of keep yourself relatable, and not be so high and preachy like you're telling everyone everything, and they don't know anything. That was a hard thing for me, because I rarely had self-confidence and things, and then I felt like I had it again, or for the first time ever, I should say, and I didn't know how to use it. I'm just like shooting my self-confidence everywhere, and everyone's like, oh, this guy's careless, this guy's crazy, he's cocky. And it's like, and I was, I wasn't trying to be, but it was just coming off too harsh, because I was just overly excited about how I felt and trying to overly share and overly help and everything. So I don't know if any of that's relatable for anyone else out there, because lately I've been really, since that happened and I've acknowledged what's going on, there's been so many strange, wild things and experiences I've had to, being pulled into my wife's dream and being able to hear entities talk to her, to being physically, bopped on the head by my kid in the back of the car when there's no kid in the back of the car. But based on what I was thinking about at the time, I know who bopped me on the head. I mean, you can't, like, when you got a ball cap on and someone hits you in your bald spot, where the ball cap top is, you notice it. So it's like, okay, they know I'm such a realist and I'm such a skeptic that they have to be gentle with me, because if I get some good solid something, I'm going to run with it and explode, because like I did. So everything has to be mild for me, or else I'll get too enthralled and my whole life will kind of spin into chaos, because I'll just go so far with it, I believe. So like in the books of Dolores Cannon, I've been reading after this, I was told by someone that this would help me, and they did. The Three Waves of Volunteers and the Convoluted Universe series and Jesus in the Essene, They Walked with Jesus, and all the Nostradamus, and so many books by her have made so much sense and have guided me to where I am now. And it's like, and everything kind of makes sense. Why I live here, why my house and the property I'm on is full of plants and flowers that are medicine from, I'm going to name a few just so people have something to search, and I'm going to try and tag them to get maybe more attention here. So to spread awareness that we have like pharmacies, safe pharmacies, somewhat safe pharmacies. So that's why research is needed, and people have done a lot of the research, but we have pharmacies in our yards based on our trees, our plants, our flowers, even our grass, little moss that grows on the ground, obviously rocks or crystals, and so much other stuff that's helpful for people that, so if something ever did happen where people are having a hard time going to a store or affording medicine, there's these awesome alternatives that could be literally in your backyard. So I'm going to try and calm myself as much as I can and get some of this information out to help others and maybe just seem more relatable, because I know it seems like right now everyone's being, because we know this year is light against dark. It's like, which one you want, the extreme or one or the other. That's why there's so much harsh divide when you're on the cliff and it's high like this. When you're not on the tip, it's like whoo, and then the other side's the same way. So we're really being driven to one side or the other, and so I'm trying to create that positive part that is to help make me feel more positive with my confidence and with believing that I'm helping others, because that's what we're all, the service to self is not, that's gone. The service to others, and that's what feels so good. It's like I type it and I tell people, but if there's anything sad, if you're depressed or sad or hurt or you're feeling lonely or lost, like they say, the simplest thing you can do is help another person, and you cure what's wrong with you. It instantly makes you feel better. You have worth again. You have value again. You know that you've made a difference. The smallest little things make the biggest difference, because, we're all so small and there's so many of us. But if we all think we're too small to make a difference, then nothing happens. But because there are so many of us, if all of us do a little thing, that is one absolutely ginormous thing. And that's the kind of oneness, the bringing of the oneness, that thinking that we need to all kind of apply, because that's how it works. I mean, it's just everyone kind of looking out for everybody else. It's like, as you hand something this way, someone's handing you the thing you gave away, so it kind of creates this beautiful, like, comforting family feel that the whole world needs now, because there's so much divisiveness and everything. And I'm trying to stay relatable and not go too far on the fringes and force too many things on people, because then it'll just push them away from me, because I'm not relatable and I'm too far on the fringe or pushing too hard, because I know people don't like to be forced to tell or told what to do, and that's not how this works anyway. I mean, everyone has the free will to do whatever they want, and if people want to believe that the free will they have is happening at that moment, at that time, when they're emotional about things, that's fine, if that's how they want to believe free will works. Or they can believe that free will is the creation of our tree of life, is where, when we're the director, editor, screenwriter, we create our tree of life, the whole thing. And our free will is, what part do we want to live on? We can choose to live in the roots if we want to get that learning done. We can choose to be in the trunk where it's nice and protective and close and tight knit, or we can literally branch out to go see what life is like in the bright sunlight, and possibly drop a seed, become a flower, float away as a dead leaf, whatever we want. It's all our choice, but it's not made in the instant where we're scared and whatnot and trying to make things right on the fly. It's all the options have been given to us in our trees of life, each individual tree we have. It's not a 2D plane either. It's a 3-dimensional tree that goes up and down and has width and body. So there's so much choices in free will to explore the whole tree for us, that, but we created the tree, and there's nothing outside of those branches that's available to us, because we've created that tree. And that's kind of what's, the tree kind of exists, and we get to find the good branches in the places we think we want to go, when we follow the things like our instinct and our intuition that we all speak of, because those are when the heart receives, the 40,000 or 50,000 neurons in our heart that receive the divine guidance from above. When the silver cord comes in, I don't know where it goes, but I mean, I think there's certain parts when we receive our instinct and our intuition, the things we all feel that we just don't have explanations for, they're coming into here before they get to our brain, because the instinct and the intuition are so smart that, you know, they know that the little false fears our eyes see and like all this stuff that prevents us and second guesses our stuff. It's like, well, that's the interference of the brain that's, you know, judging all these fears and, you know, restricting ourselves from doing things because we have all these illusions of this or that or bad that's going to happen. Or but the instinct and our intuition know that that's just a false fear. That's just keeping you from doing something that you shouldn't, risks you shouldn't take. It's like, if we feel that we should take that risk, we should do that. Because as we've been finding out now, if we're all in this higher vibration, some people say things like protections are kind of a lower vibration way of thinking because, and it is, I mean, if we're protecting ourselves from an instance that we might see negative, we're just prolonging our lesson that we're supposed to learn, because we know when we fall, when we stumble, when something bad happens, there's going to be a brighter side on the other. We're going to be stronger on the other side of it. We're going to have more answers to get through something like that. So when we encounter something more severe, we'll actually be able to acknowledge it, experience the negative, be grateful for it, because we know when we're going to use that momentum to roll up the other side and come out higher than we were. So I think that's why instinct, intuition, and the tree of life and free will are so interlinked in that whole, you know, metaphysical way that, I don't know, I hope everyone kind of gets how they work. That's what I believe how they work, because I mean, it makes most sense to me. I don't want to be scrambling down here making decisions because, you know, just because I have free will. I'd love some divine guidance, and I feel like I've had that, and it kind of gives you that comfort knowing that the path you've taken has got you where you're at, and that's good. And also that when you go forward, the decisions you make, if you're really following your intuition and you're trying your best to do what's good for you, because what's hold you from the inside, I think that's like the best, because then you know when you do things in the future, it's just going to keep you on that ascension path of helping others and feeling good about yourself and not questioning the things that you've done in the past, where you just dwell on them at night and try and replay conversations in your head where you're like, I could have done it, I could have done this. Because I used to do that. I used to do that all the time, and I'd keep myself up in bed. Oh, I could have said this, or I could have came back like this, or I could have, you know, if I just said this. It's like, well, no, everything you did was supposed to happen. And it's like, even the acknowledgement that you're having while you're regretting something is like, had a purpose, but it won't for long. To change speeds, and before it gets too long, I did want to just throw a couple of plant names out there. Tree of life to plants. Hey, it's a plant, right? So, other than the tree of life, we'll go to some of the things I noticed while my daughter and I were walking around our property after being inspired by my friend Jim, my friend's Marin's dad, Jim, who I've known for a while, and his connection to me and their family is, that's another time, because, wow, that's awesome. But he was walking around our property explaining like things like pine needle tea and the benefits of that, and like even box elder trees. And we were looking for quite a few other things. And lo and behold, we found so many strange flowers and plants that all have extreme healing properties on our. So, I mean, if you want to look up some of these flowers and see if there's any in your yard, I know it's winter right now, so hopefully Google will still be available come spring. I know things might get a little strange in the spring according to some things, but hopefully we still have a way to identify plants. If not, I'm working on a plant guide. It's not pretty yet, but it's a plant guide, so we'll have some pictures and whatnot, so maybe I can just have a physical copy of this. But just to read off some plants, we have one of the most powerful ones we found. It was so strange because it was the rarest. We only found two patches, about 6 flowers each, but it's the cardinal flower, which like amplifies all of the medicine, I guess. Some of the other ones are purple loosestrife. We have jewelweed. We have smartweed, St. John's wort, obviously a lot of elderberry, Box elder maples are very good for things. Red clover, we have American plums, and I found out the bark of that tree is actually where the medicine is. Then we have lady's thumb, we have horseweed, we have Aserium root, and boneset. And that is the small note I took out of I think it was like 35 other plants, other than those ones we found around, from Native American tobacco to cotton. Because I believe the high elevation of this property I bought, and the foundation for my two-story house that was built in the 1800s, I'm almost convinced it was a hospital or something because of all the medical herbs or something around here, or maybe everyone back then just knew all this stuff. And that's, I mean, it's strange because none of these plants are native to here. They're all from Asia and other places, and some of them are used in Native American culture. The other weird thing is I found out about these plants that I wanted to bring up was the Asian lady beetles. The only plants that they're eating are all of these plants on the medical, like anti-inflammatory, all this list. So it's like, if you want to find out what plants are beneficial for medical purposes and have healing properties to them, you can go and look, and if there's lady beetles eating holes in the leaves, more than likely that is a non-native plant that has been used for medicine, and someone probably brought it here for medicine purposes. So that's what I found out. Every single plant, every single one of these is eaten by the Asian beetles. But the other ones that are native to here that don't really do much for medicine, they're not touching them. So I don't know. There's going to be more work on that in the future. I'm going to start brewing a lot more pine needle tea because I'm learning the health benefits of that. It started out Jim telling me just for cough, and it's like, then I look it up, I'm like, oh my gosh, this stuff has so much vitamin C in it and all this other stuff in it, and vitamin A, and it's like everything is. So we've been trying to brew that and keep it healthy, even adding a little sweetener just if we give it to a kid with a cold or whatnot, if they want to cough at night. So I think he's got lingonberry syrup from Sweden that we've been testing out to have it cold, and it's still pretty yummy for pine needle tea. So because I know that people get turned off by it when you first tell them about it. But there will be more. I'm going to try and upload more on this channel in a more professional manner like this. Hopefully it's not too boring and lengthy. I don't have a lot of fancy stuff yet, or a whiteboard behind me, but I'm getting there. So thanks for anyone watching if you've hung in there this long. Yeah, I'm just trying to help spread people's awareness and trying to make myself seem more relatable, humble, and also give other people more confidence to put themselves out there, because I know it's helping me inside to be more confident. And if there's a chance that what I say can help anyone, even if one person watches this and gets one little thing out of it, that is perfect. That's the only reason I did it then. Even if it's just one person, because that makes me feel good, because every little thing we all do or try and do to help someone else is going to make you feel good. It's going to make hopefully someone else feel good. And you can just share your love and your light and any kind of joy you have. I know I get emotional all the time, but that's one of the other things too. I'm not afraid to show that, I'm a man in a flannel shirt. I get emotional because I know that that's from the books of Dolores Cannon, that's what you can't fake, is when your soul is doing work, it's emotional, because that's your attachment to God. I mean, every time I make videos and I feel an attachment like that strong initial one I had when I was going through my awakening and activation, it's like, that was the most beautiful love feeling I've ever felt in my life. And when I was in the graveyard doing it, it was just there and present, and it's beautiful and warm, and you just cry because you're so happy. But so thank you for if you held in there. Hope to see more people in the future. I got some meetings going up with some people. I joined the Stargate community, and it's beautiful. I've been following people like Danica Patrick with a Pretty Intense podcast, the Next Level Soul guy, Sam the Illusionist. I mean, these people, their channel, some of them channel, most of them channel, or people they talk to channel, and that's just, I'm trying to figure out if that's what's happening with me, because there's certain times where I don't know what I'm saying, and I have had experiences to where I'm just there, but I'm not the one doing the interacting. And then, yeah, so there's more to explain. Thanks again for watching. love everybody, and take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Bye.